recording. And 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Cambridge. It is Self Esteem, and I just came back from Israel. It's been an incredible journey. The next show I'm going to be hosting with Boriana, and we're going to be talking only about positive psychology. But today, I want to slip in a little bit more of emotional talk, and I'm here at Hubba Hubba, which I don't know if you know, but it's a few stores next to CCTV, and I'm here with Rain. And I want to talk a little bit about the fetish society, a little bit about emotions, about empowerment, and I guess I just like provocative things.
I think that's true.
So Rain, tell us a little bit about yourself, about this place.
All right, well, Hubba Hubba I like to call us an alternative adult boutique. We are a fetish/adult store. We sell novelties and we sell regular lingerie and things like that, but we try to cater more towards the fetish community and the BDSM community. So we specialize in like high-end restraints and that sort of like PVC, leather, latex.
I don't know what PVC is.
PVC is polyvinyl carbonate, I think that's what it stands for. But it's vinyl. It's basically just a shiny material. They make clothing out of it, dresses and corsets and
like that shiny thing I was wearing this weekend?
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Sometimes that can be patent leather, which is leather that's treated with coating to make it shiny, but cheaper and easier is PVC, which is basically it's a plastic that they turn into clothes.
Huh. That's... let me just tell you how I got introduced to the fetish community. I had, long story short, I hosted a big Shabbos dinner, a big community meal in my house, and I was laughing at a certain point, and someone commented about my laugh, and I said I'm really, really embarrassed about my laugh, because, there was this childhood trauma. I was laughing, and one of my parents got really upset, and from then on I was, afraid to laugh, and that person was like, I'll do anything just to tie you up and tickle you.
A tickle fetish. It's an interesting one.
So I was like, oh my God, this sounds really scary. Let's do it. So I was tickled for, I think, 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness. How did you deal with it?
Well, the first half an hour I was fighting my laugh, like I always do. I'm trying to be serious. So coming from the army background, you got to be serious. You can't laugh. Right. And then I started laughing. But the amazing thing that happened for me was, one thing, I was tied up, but I was blindfolded. Okay.
So it's sort of like sensory deprivation. You couldn't see where the person was coming from, when they were coming to tickle you, that type of thing.
There was a certain point that I didn't know when that person was going to tickle me or not. Mm-hmm. And I was just laughing because I was so scared. And you hear somebody knocking on the door? I'm having a customer come in. Well, I'm going to continue with my story. So, the fact that I was covered up, that my eyes were blindfolded, it was really helpful because I couldn't see myself. So I didn't have any body image issues because I was blindfolded. And I could just be someone else for a second. I was able to get out of myself. So it was really amazing for me to experience that. And I finally started laughing, and I was laughing from my heart. And it was just funny, very, very simply laughing. And you know how healthy laughing is. Research actually explains that laughing uses so many muscles that to the extent that laughing 5 minutes, a real laugh from your core is like 20 minutes on a treadmill.
I'm sorry.
About the importance of laugh. And also mentioned how amazing it was for me to be blindfolded, because that's what actually helped me get out of myself, because I couldn't see myself. Right. I didn't have my perception of who I think I am. I am this and this and that. I'm a Harvard student. I'm a serious person. Yeah. I was just laughing.
You sort of went into something, it's what they call subspace. It's where you're not thinking about all of the other things that you think about on a daily basis. You're not thinking about going to work tomorrow. You're not thinking about, if what you're doing is right or wrong. You're sort of just thinking about what you're feeling. And that's what they call subspace, and that's sort of what blindfolds are meant to do. And the restraint from movement is sort of, it takes you out of yourself and out of, whoever you are normally, to where you're only focusing on sort of one thing, and what you were focusing on was you were focusing on your laughter, but also on the tickle sensation, which was making you laugh. But probably because you have that whole thing about feeling weird about your laugh, you know, so you were focusing more on the fact that you were able to do it so freely, right?
I remember there was like a certain point that I was like, well, I'm not me. I'm a flower. I'm a baby, you know. And I was like, I was totally, you know, I let myself be something else. Anyway, that inspired me to, you know, I really thank the person, and they suggested I'm going to go on FetLife. So FetLife is the Facebook of fetishism, and
it is. FetLife can be pretty raunchy. If you allow it to be
raunchy, what's raunchy?
Like dirty, sort of. You know,
English is my second
language. Very. Everything's very sex oriented. Like, people will probably be sending you lots of pornographic pictures, especially guys. But if you find FetLife has a lot of groups that you can join, and people in the fetish community in Boston, they do these things called munches, where a group of people will get together at a certain place every week or every month and have lunch together and just talk about probably just normal life, but also talk about more kinky stuff.
Yeah, so, well, that's what happened to me. I opened like a secret profile for the time, and I went to a munch.
Okay.
And it was in Davis Square, Tavern in the Square, next to Davis Square, and Porter Square, actually. I think it was a Wednesday night, and I was like, what am I supposed to be like, you know, hi, I'm Shalvit, what are you into? You know, but people were that open. People were so open about their sexual preferences, and I found it very, very freeing, especially because it wasn't only sex. It was just like talking about a lot of things that are tabooed.
Right.
And I think I'm in a personal journey myself of, you know, kind of coming out of the scared self that's like afraid of like the grown-ups world, and, you know, what is allowed, what is not allowed, you know, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. Is it appropriate to laugh, you know? And people are just like, you know, saying all those words that I was always afraid to say, and very, very friendly. People were extremely friendly, and very consensual. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is the consent in the fetish world, because people were very, very. No one tried to convince me to do anything. No one tried to convince me to. No one grabbed me. People were so clear about their intentions, about their expectations, and very much encouraging me to be clear, you know, for, you know,
what you're comfortable with, and, you know, what you wanted to try and what you're not comfortable with, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think the sexual world is one of the most tabooed worlds.
Absolutely. And I think once you get into the fetish community and you go to a munch and you're around a lot of like-minded people, that they're so much more clear on what they want and what they don't want, because they understand that within the confines of where they are and within the group that they're associating with at that point in time, that's okay. Like, it's okay to talk about that stuff. Nobody there is going to judge you for it. So they can be open about it, and they can be clear, and they can say, you know, exactly what they want without having to worry about what anybody else is going to think. Whereas any other day, you can't talk about this stuff, you know.
Right.
Like, that's one of the things that when I went away on vacation and everybody was much more free and clear and stuff, and we could talk about stuff and do stuff that around other people it would be totally taboo and totally not okay. And that's sometimes when I realize about my group of friends. You know, most people don't go to parties and then afterwards there's topless women walking around getting spanked and tied up and flogged, tied to a coffee table, which has happened at almost every party I've been to for the past 8 years.
That sounds pretty crazy. People don't go mad?
No, people just, you know, they go into their different places and do what they are comfortable with doing, and other people, if they don't want to participate in it, then they go somewhere else and they do whatever they're comfortable with doing, and it's just people are so comfortable with that stuff.
See, I think one of the taboos in my head is that, you know, like once you get in the sex world, people go wild.
Right.
And from what I understand and what I've seen so far, people are so, you know, so careful and so communicative. You know, what do you like? What do you not like? What are your preferences? And I actually wanted to ask you for some examples of, you know, because you work at the store and you have people come in, and I'm sure there are people that come in, you know, very uptight and Like, I'm sure you have some stories of, maybe even life-changing stories that happened here in a sex store.
Yeah, one of the stories that sort of changed my life and made me look at sexuality in a different way is I started working at sex stores a long time ago. I've been here for 7 years, but is it 7 years? Something like that.
Wow.
But before that, I worked at an Amazing, which is a chain adult store. It's very different from here, where we're very much boutique and we don't sell adult movies. Like, we don't sell pornographic movies. We're more into the clothing aspect of clubbing and the adult world, less than like the movies. But I used to work at an Amazing, and I had a woman come in who was looking for a vibrator, and she seemed very nervous when she was looking around, so I went up to her and spoke to her, tried to make her feel more comfortable. That place was a little more intimidating than this place because of all the movies. It just makes you feel kind of gross. But I went up to her, I asked her how she was, if she needed any help, and she said no at first. And then I saw she kept looking, so I went up and asked her again, started talking to her more about if she knew what kind of a toy she was looking for.
Why did the movies make you feel gross? I've never seen one of those movies.
Oh. Well, it's not the movies that make you...
Is it too much in your face?
It's so much in your face, and they're so male-oriented, and not that I'm afraid of pornography. Like, I'm not afraid of pornography at all.
Of course.
But sometimes the people who go into those stores, like, for instance, when I worked there at Amazing, I used to get asked super inappropriate questions by strangers all the time. They would bring up a movie and say it would be a girl having, like, anal sex, and there would be maybe 2 guys on the cover with her, like, super intense imagery, and oh, would you do this? Huh. Oh, are you like this? Are you like this in the bedroom? Oh, do you shave? Like, all these questions, wow. And I didn't know these people, and how dare they talk to me like that when they don't know me? I'm not what was for sale. I have no problem selling you what you want, but don't talk to me that way.
Yeah.
Which is why I like here so much better, because it's so much more comfortable, and I don't get propositioned so inappropriately nearly as much.
Would you see that like the fetish community is more like organized? Because it seems like this store is a little bit more targeted towards people who have like a lifestyle, and the pornography is. It seems a little bit more like that chaotic thing that I was imagining. Yeah, I think people just being inappropriate in your face.
And I think it is because
and non-consensual.
For instance, when I worked there, we rented movies, which was a whole other thing. But I would get movies back with like bodily fluids and things on them. Like somebody just did the deed and then didn't even have the forethought, because they felt so guilty about it or something that they had to hide it, that they just like couldn't even wash their hands before they took the movie and put it back in the case.
Oh, wow.
And that doesn't make any sense. And when people come here, people are so different. People who are more in the lifestyle, they feel more comfortable. They already know that they're welcomed. And people who don't understand that, I think they have major guilt over it, and it's the madness that you talk about. Because I think people get sort of caught up in that, like, I'm doing this and it's not okay.
Right.
Whereas people come in here are more comfortable with knowing that it's okay.
I think that's what I was talking about, like the grown-ups who are like it's so scary, oh my God.
Well, that's like the woman who I was talking to about the vibrator, going back to her, I finally got her talking to me, and she explained to me that she had just gotten divorced after being married for 30 years, and she didn't think she ever had an orgasm.
Oh my God.
That she had never masturbated, that she didn't even know like anything about it, but she felt like there was something that she needed to explore in herself, and she just didn't know what to do. So I sat there and I talked to her probably for like a good 45 minutes, just talking about how I felt that she could get more comfortable with her body. I told her, to take a bath and sort of she didn't have to do it all at once, but like sort of become familiar with the parts on her body that it felt good when she touched them, maybe take a bubble bath and listen to some music that made her feel sexy, drink some wine or something, and just totally have a date with herself and make herself feel good. Go out and buy herself some lingerie, go out and buy herself a pretty dress, do her makeup for herself, do her hair for herself, and not for anybody else,
That sounds so empowering.
And it was, and I spoke to her, and I ended up selling her a toy, a rabbit vibrator, and explained to her how how it was supposed to be used, and all that stuff, which she was sort of shocked. But if you do it in a gentle way, people who even are scared of it will listen, and they will understand, and they'll take it in. But she came back 3 weeks.
I don't even know what a rabbit vibrator is, but that's okay. I have a lot to it.
It's
okay. I want to hear the story.
Well, anyway, 3 weeks later, about 2 or 3 weeks later, she came back into the store.
The same woman
that I had spoken with 2 weeks before, who told me she was getting divorced and everything, and told me that I changed her life, and said that she discovered this whole side of her, and thank you so much, and she had never known that it was okay for her to feel sexual. She thought for her entire marriage that she was just there to please her husband when he had a need, and that it wasn't a two-sided thing, that it was just one-sided,
That's amazing.
So, and she said it did wonders for her self-confidence, and she made me cry, because I was just doing my job, and that's when I realized that sexuality is such an important thing, and I've had struggles with it in my own personal life, where I was dating somebody and they didn't make me feel sexy or something, and it does something to you, that you can't necessarily put your finger on right away, but I feel like it's a part of people's lives that they really, really need to learn to be comfortable with,
Yeah.
And that's what I think is a beautiful thing about you, is sort of seeing you and hearing your history and stuff, and seeing how you are becoming comfortable with who you are and your body and stuff. Like, I think that stuff's awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to talk a little bit I don't know if we have time. Let me just check if I have time to talk about role play. I don't know how much time we have.
Can you edit it or something later?
Edit it. So let's talk. I just didn't bring a watch. So let's do 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Okay.
So we'll do role plays. If it cuts in the middle, people will just have to stay in suspense.
Just never know what happens.
They'll just have to come to Hubba Hubba. Okay, so so we were talking about that woman that didn't feel comfortable, and and now she started feeling comfortable, and you're relating that to you're dating someone that make you feel horrible about yourself.
Right.
And that's where, I don't know, just stuck in my mind the whole role play thing, right? Where people could put themselves in the situation, plan everything ahead. I know some people like to be humiliated, some people like to be slaves, some people like to be masters. But it seems like this whole game of people who are letting themselves be in vulnerable positions, but in kind of a structured way. And I guess, I don't know, what do you think? Again, I don't know much about this world, but do you think that people get hurt more or less, or is there some sort of a correlation in the fetish community? I don't know if my question is clear.
Hurt, you mean emotionally? You mean emotionally damaged, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about emotions.
Because I think in normal dating, there's so many things that are unspoken. It's so hard to say what you like, what you're comfortable with.
Right.
What are your limits? Those things is, very hard to communicate.
Right.
I personally am a person that I worked so much on my, external communicative self, and people are often very, very shocked of, when I just, when I say it up front to a person, I'm like, can I kiss you?
Right. That scares a lot of people, being so forward, because I feel like I'm the same way as you in a lot of ways with that whole thing. But that's just because I've been around this stuff so much that I know that I'm going to be clear no matter what. And some people, it's very intimidating to them when somebody says oh, can I kiss you? Is it okay if we do this? Or I want to do that.
Yeah.
People are like, did you really just say that to me? I think that in the fetish community, you can have someone get much more, maybe not more hurt, but hurt in a different way, because there's a whole sort of different dynamic, and it depends on how far people are willing to take it and how far people push at it.
People get physically hurt too.
People can get physically hurt, but some people really like that stuff too.
Right.
I know a girl who likes to get spanked until her bottom is black and blue for days. Like, I would never like that sort of pain, but some people do. You know, or people who, like men who like CBT. I can't even say it.
Okay.
Well, but it's like that's a strange thing, you know, to want. But then I think emotionally, I think that they're freer because they allow themselves to go to this whole other place in their sexuality.
Yeah.
So they don't have that pent up energy.
Yeah, I hear that, and I guess part of me thinks I'm very pro structures because, you know, I think from the psychology aspect, which the show's mostly and starting to focus more and more on psychology, and you know, like as human beings, like we need some sort of a structure so we could live in the moment. Like, you know, we want to be free, but you know, when you have no structure, you get really confused. Right. So we always set up structures for ourselves, even if we think that we don't have structure. We're like, now I can do what I want. Well, what I want is some sort of structure, right? Right. Okay, that's a little bit of philosophy there, but you know, that structure of, you know, of communicating, of saying what you like, of
having safe words, and also in BDSM, there's so many tools. Also, so there's a lot of like structure around what tools people like. You know, like I will like a blindfold, but I don't want a gag. Right. Or you can tie my hands up behind my back, but you can't tie them above my head. Right. Or you can use a flogger on me, but you can't use a cane.
Yeah, and even like, you know, the very simple, you know, non-fetishy things. Like I saw some profiles in FetLife have like, you know, I like when you play with my hair, but I'm very sensitive. Please don't touch my feet. Right. Where I could talk to, you know, one of my girlfriends, you know, being on a date and you know, for example, let's say that the same person that didn't have that communication and had the boy think that she really likes a foot massage, and she's been like so insecure that whole time, and she couldn't say, you know, living of anxiety, but you know, but she didn't have the tools because it's not something that people always talk about, or you know, yeah. And I kind of like that. I like that fetish community. It's because I think what I find attractive it is the partially that it's in your face, but that it has so much communication and so much structure for things that people are, you know, that people feel so taboo about.
Right. I think that some of the kinkiest people that I know in the fetish community are probably some of the most normal, nicest, down-to-earth people in their everyday lives. And I think that's because they have that within them to where they can acknowledge that part of what I think I know that it's because they have that in them.
You meet a lot of people coming in here.
Oh, in here, but I mean more so my friends, the people who I hang out with on a regular basis. I don't know everybody who just comes in here randomly off the street. But then it's funny because they'll come in here and I'll talk to them and help them with a product and then recognize them at an event down the road. And say, oh, I remember you from Hubba Hubba. But I've the people who are able to acknowledge this sort of kinky part of them, I think that they have a much easier time in their daily lives acknowledging and communicating and doing other things like that and understanding maybe just their interactions with other people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because they're so used to doing it the way that they do it within a scenario, a scene or whatever, when they're playing with somebody new and getting to know their likes and their dislikes and all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we're out of time. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you. This is fun.
So many people really appreciate this video besides me.
Oh cool. I can't. When's it going to be on? I can't wait.
Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to send you the link. So Sam, thank you so much for watching and for being part of this episode, you guys. And feel free to email me at chalhavit@gmail.com or at facebook.com. At harvard.com. I'm starting my master's finally.
Nice. That's exciting.
Not harvard.com, Harvard, blah, blah, blah. But whatever.
Harvard.edu?
Yeah, I think so. It's nice to have that unique name. I got all the email domains. Anyway, it's easy to find me if you have questions or if you're looking for links. And I'm going to see you in our next show with Boriana. We're going to be focusing on positive psychology and studies on well-being and motivation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rain.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.